Hello and welcome to Charming Python, another installment on how to make money using Python. Here we've chosen another project from Upwork. In this case we're going to crawl a website and provide its content in a text file. As you can see, there are two presented here, rector.org and AZLyrics.com. I'm going to dump all the selected poems or scraped poems into a long text file. They're both very similar, so I'm going to choose the AZLyrics because I'm a musician and it might be useful for me as well. So let's take a look at that website. Again, we'll use our standard workflow for extracting data. That's inspect, acquire, extract, output, and then use. At first look, not a very sophisticated website. It looks like we have a search box, a number of hot songs which have been listed here, and at the top we have A through £, which is the artists through A to Z, and then I assume the £, is numbers. Let's take an inspect of the site. As we can see, we have a div class which has button group, text center, and we then have a number of A links with the class of button and button menu. Let's take a look at the button menu, and searching on that we can see we have 27 options, which is A through Z and the £. So let's select letter A and see what we can see. As you'd expect, a list of artists. Let's inspect one of those and look closer to see what we can find. As we can see, a list of links here under a div class which is artist-column. So if we do a search on artist-column, we can see that there are two results which look like they are just repeated collections of links. So we should be able to extract the A link and the href from that A link for each of the listed artists here. It's also worth noting that the link itself is only a partial link, so we'll need to add the URL. Drilling down into the individual song, we can see we have a div with a class of list album-item, and that gives us a partial URL with the lyrics, the name of the song, and that allows us to extract the link for that particular song as well. So we've selected the artist, the list of songs. Now let's inspect an individual song. Again, nothing special here, standard HTML page. So let's look at the header area. We can see the title, which gives us the artist and the song. So we should be able to extract both the song name and the artist from the title. Then as we look down the page for the lyrics, we can see we have a div with a class of ringtone, and then direct below that another div which looks like we have our lyrics hidden in here, which means we just need to be a little bit more sophisticated with how we use Beautiful Soup, and instead of finding just the div with the class ringtone, we need to find its first sibling. We should also note this usage comment here. Usage of AZLyrics content by any third-party lyric provider is prohibited. Now, as we're using this for educational purposes in this case, and the end user is probably a musician using it for their own songs, we can assume this is okay. But we won't be scraping the entire site anyway. So I think in this particular case, we're fine. So how does that look? Well, first of all, we create an empty list called letters. We populate that with all of the links for each of the letters A, B, C, through to the £. For each of those links, we then go to a page of artists, and we extract each of the links for each of the artists. Starting at A, so A1, capital A1, Anastasia, AC/DC, right through to Z, and then the £. Then for each of those artists, we'll go to their page and we'll extract a list of the individual songs. So for Anastasia, that would be songs like Not That Kind and Out of Love. We'll go to those links and we'll extract and place into a tuple the artist name, the song title from the title on the page, and then we'll extract the lyric. That tuple will then be added to a final results collection list, and that will be what we send to our text file. Right, let's get to work. Here's our coding plan. To investigate, acquire, extract, produce the output, and then send to the user. So our libraries are going to be the requests library and our Beautiful Soup. Then we're going to make a list for all of the links for each of the letters. Then from that list, we're going to create a list of artists for each letter. Then we're going to make a list of songs for each of the artists. And then for each of those songs, we're going to extract the title, which will split into the artist and the song name. Then we'll extract the lyrics. And then for this purpose, we'll create a tuple of artist, song and lyrics. We'll send that down to a master list, and then we'll save each item of that list into a text file with a text separator so that it's easy to read. We'll do our initial investigation using Jupyter Notebooks, and then we'll refactor in VS Code so we have a running script. Right, let's get coding. Here we are in Jupyter Notebooks, and with the list of our individual stages, get the libraries, get the response, get the individual links for letter, artists, songs, and the tuple at the end. So the libraries we discussed, we want the requests library, and we also want to import from BS4 Beautiful Soup. Now I tend to import it as BS4 because I'm lazy, don't want to retype. Now sometimes when we use a requests library, we run into challenges. So we sometimes need to put a header in there which covers something called a user agent. Now a user agent just identifies the browser which we'd normally be using, and we can find that using Google. If we just type in my user agent into Google, and here we can see that we have Mozilla 5 for Macintosh, which is my normal browser. So let's copy and paste that into our user agents variable. Then we'll create a header. Headers equals, and it's a dictionary, so we need to add in quotes user agent as the key to the dictionary, and then we need to add our user agent itself. Now let's create the URL, https www.azlyrics.com, and then from there we need to create our response from our requests library. That response when sent to the internet gives us 200, which means it's a valid response. Now let's cook up some soup. So soup equals BS4, we take our response and we pass it through the HTML parser. Let's take a look at what the soup returns. Standard HTML document, and as you can see down here we have our list of individual letters with the full URL and each letter identified as a link. The href itself has 2 leading slashes, so we'll need to remove those. And what we'll do is we'll just take the href and we'll slice off from character 2 onwards. So we can now extract that directly from the soup. Letters equals soup.findAll, and we're looking for the A tag with a class of button and button menu. That should now give us a list of all of those letters. What we actually want is just a list of the links. So for letter in each of the letters in the original soup list, what we want to do is extract the link. That means just extracting the href, and as we said, we're only taking from character 2 onwards. So let's take a look at what that yields. As we can see, we have a list of all of our links with the leading 2 slashes removed, and we can step through each of those next with our next section of code. So you remember the disclaimer, so let's not upset anyone by scraping the entire site. Let's just take the A link, which is the first in our letters link list we just created. That will yield just the artists with the letter A. Let's create our response, use our A only link, and use our headers for the user agents again. And then let's create some soup. Soup A links is the response text passed through the HTML parser. At this stage we still want a list of the artists, so let's create our blank list. And if you remember, when we looked at artists in the original inspection, we used artist-column as the div class name. We also got 2 responses there, so let's just take the second of those responses, which was the cleaner of the 2 lists. Artist tags should have a list of the href tags for the second of the artist column collection. So let's take the tag from each of those artist tags. That should give us the href. Now to that href we need to add the base URL and the backslash so that we can create our new URL, and then we'll append that to our artist list list. Let's take a look at what that looks like after we run the code. So here we have artist list. As you can see, it's the full URL, then a slash to indicate the letter, in this case A, then the individual artist's name, and we can use each of these items in this list to request the artist from the website and get a list of their individual songs. As we do scroll down this list, what's unclear to me is why some of these letters start with J, L, K, when they're all listed and have been searched for under the letter A as part of the search. I suspect it's just the way they've been listed for whatever reason. So John Anderson, for example, may be listed under A for Anderson, not under J for John. This means we might have some duplicates at the end, which we could take care of with the pandas data frame and extract any non-unique values. Clearly that's an option, but the user has only asked for us to extract the information as a web scrape, so we shall just do that. So now let's create a list of songs for each individual artist. We'll just select one artist, again to limit the amount of responses we're creating at this stage. So let's take the artist number 10, which just happened to be Anastasia. We'll create another response request, and then we'll turn that request into soup. So we'll have soup for the artist, and if we look down, scroll the response, you can see again we have the information at the top, which is the list of individual letters to allow us to go back to a search, and as we scroll down we can find the individual songs, in this case for Anastasia, Black Roses, Cowboys Kisses. So we now know we have the ability to look at these individual links, extract them to a list, and then use them for our next response. As you can see, it's only a partial URL, so we'll need to add the base URL as well. So we set our URL, artist, to be artist list item number 10 for Anastasia. We have a response variable which uses requests, and we get the URL for Anastasia, and we pass the headers in again for the agent. We create soup by passing the response text through HTML, and we want a list of songs for each artist. So we create an empty songs links list. Now we need to create some soup for the artist songs. So we use the original soup. We find all of the elements from the div with the class name of list album item. That should provide us with a list of all the song artist songs. Now we take each individual song in a loop, so for song in soup artist songs. We take each of those links, we add the base URL, and then we add the href which we take from the individual link. So that now builds an individual link for the song, URL and the href, and we append that to our songs link list. And if we run this cell, you can see we have a complete list of Anastasia song links ready for us to go to the next stage of extracting the information we need from the website. Our final stage is to create a tuple of artist, song and lyrics for each of the songs and add that to a results collection list. So let's create a results collection empty list. Then we'll use a for loop to step through song in each song link. We'll get the response from our requests library again, and we'll create a song info soup by passing it through beautiful soup. Then in this particular case we'll take the title and extract it from the soup, and we'll use a break statement here so we only look at one song. This limits our request and our investigation to just one of the songs. We run the cell, and as you can see we have Anastasia, Baptize My Soul, then the statement lyrics, then a pipe sign, and then the URL. Let's look at how we can break that down. We'll take the title, which is a string, and we'll split that string using the pipe. That returns a list, and that list has two elements in it. We only want the first. Then we'll split that first element around the hyphen sign, which will give us a list of Anastasia and Baptize My Soul lyrics. Then we'll set the variable artist to title 0, which is the first in the list, Anastasia. Then we'll set songs with the second item in the list. We'll replace the word lyrics with nothing, and then we'll strip off the leading and trailing white spaces. So let's just rerun the cell and print out artist and song to make sure this works. And it does. Great. So let's just recap how we find the lyrics. Back on the web page, let's go to an individual song, Baptize My Soul, and when we inspect, we can see that we have an unnamed div here, but the previous div is class ringtone. So we can select class ringtone and then the next sibling, and that should provide us with a list of lyrics. So let's get back to the code. We'll remove the print statements, and we'll create a variable lyrics, which is the song information soup. We'll find the div with a class of ringtone, then we'll find the next sibling div, and we'll extract the text from that. That should provide us with the lyrics. So let's just add a print statement and run that cell and see if we get the lyrics, and we do. So let's remove the print statement. We'll create a song tuple of artist, song and lyrics, and then we'll take the result collection and we'll append that song tuple. When we run this across all songs, we should have the list, but in this particular case we'll just have one instance. Let's print it and run the cell, and as you can see we have Anastasia, the artist, Baptize My Soul, the song, and then the lyrics. complete with all of the necessary white spaces so that it's printed correctly in the text file. Perfect. So let's refactor this code and make it something that we can run as a script. Here we are in VS Code. As you can see, we have the main function. At the top we have the user agent, which is our Mozilla browser. Then we create the headers, which is just the user agent. Then we have the main or the base URL. Then we create the response for the initial web page download. As we're doing this a large number of times, and we try not to repeat ourselves, we actually have a function which is the getResponse function, which we send the URL and the header to. We then create some beautiful soup from that response, and we create our letters links empty list. Letters is then set to all of the letters from the response, and we step through each letter, getting the href, and then appending that to our letter links list. Again, in this particular case, we're only taking the first 2 entries from our list so that we don't overload the server and we don't breach the policies of AZLyrics. Our next stage was to get all the artists for each individual letter, and again we create a link from the letter links, again only taking the first 2. We send this to a URL to our response function, and again, because we're doing this a number of times, we have a function which is called getArtists, where we send a response that returns a list of all of the artists, and we add that to the empty list. Because it's 2 lists, we can use the add function here rather than appending a string. Now with a list of all of the artist URLs, we can actually go into individual pages and get all songs. So we have a blank all songs list, and then for every artist in our artist lists, again limiting to 2, we have the URL, which is the base URL plus the artist information. Then we send that to our getResponse function. We get back a list of songs. Those songs go off to the getSongs function. And again, that returns a list, which we then add to the all songs empty list. So we have a complete list now of all songs. Remember, at this stage, we're still dealing with links, but now we need to go and get the artist, the song, and the lyrics. Our lyrics go in our results collection, which is an empty list. And for each song, in all of the songs, again limiting ourselves to 2, we create the song URL. This is the URL plus the song link that's been returned, but if you remember, we had a leading backslash on that which we remove, so we slice that off from 1 character on. While investigating further on the website, I noticed that some of the songs are actually poorly named and through exceptions, so I use a try and accept block here to make sure that none of the individual songs being poorly named stops the script from running. Here, if the song is correctly named, we get the artist, the song, and the lyrics, and if not, we just pass, which may leave 1 or 2 holes in the overall list, but I think that's acceptable given the number of lyrics we're capturing. As the script completes, we have a results collection list which has the tuples for each of the songs we've captured. We need to write this to a text file, so we use a file context manager. So with open songs.txt as append and as f, we step through each of the results. So for result and results collection, we set a variable title as the first element of the results, the artist, and then the content. We then create f strings to write the song title and the variable contents directly to file, and we separate it with a string of hyphens and a return character just to make it easier to read. And the context manager automatically closes the file when it's completed running through each of the elements of the list. So that's the main function. Let's look at the other functions which makes this code modular. First we import requests and beautiful soup. Then we have a getResponse function which takes the URL and the headers, which is the user agent, creates a response using the request library and returns that response. Next we have the getArtists function, which has an empty artist list. It creates a soup, an artist soup from that response. It steps through the artist column, extracting each of the A tags and then the href, then appending those to the artist list and returning that list for addition to the overall list of artists. Our next function is the getSongs function, and again this takes a response. It creates a blank songs list, it creates a soup from the response, and from that soup we take the list item div and we extract the A tag and then the href, and we append that to the songs list and return the list of songs to be added to the overall songs list back in the main function. Then finally we have the getSongTuple function, which takes a response, creates a soup, and it extracts the title, from which it takes the title itself. It splits the title on the pipe, which gives us the first element of artist and song. Then it splits that first element using the hyphen. The first element is the artist. The second element, we replace lyrics and strip off the whites, and we end up with the song. And then the lyrics was the first next sibling div from the div of class ringtone. We then create a song tuple of artist, song and lyrics, and we return that tuple to be added to the results collection list. And that completes the script. So we use the investigate, acquire, extract, output and use methodology. Our libraries were requests and beautiful soup. We made a list of all of the letter links. From each of the letters we made a list of the artists. Then for each of the artists we made a list of the songs. And then for each of the songs we extracted the title, which gave us the artist and the song itself, or the song name. And then we extracted the lyrics. We returned that as a tuple, which went back to our master list. We wrote from that master list to a text file, and then we refactored all of the code so that it ran in Visual Studio. So here's the Upwork proposal. We would have scraped the websites. We chose one of those, the AZLyrics, and dumped all of the scraped poems, in this case lyrics, into a long single text file using the following format. And it was down as 1 to 3 months project length, but I think we completed that in around about 30 minutes. And if we'd completed both sites, that would have paid $50, which is a tidy little sum for 30 minutes work. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe, and join us again at The Charming Python for more making money with Python.